Week number 5, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, as I did have a rebound week in week 4 for sure, going 11-5, 37-27 on the season. And let's keep the momentum going. What's going on, everybody? I am Mac, back with another video. As always, do me a favor, like, comment, subscribe, follow on Instagram. Link is in the box below. So yeah, strong week. I usually do terrible with 50-50 picks, but I got a decent amount of them right last week as I needed it real bad. And there are a few 50-50 games this week, in my opinion, but overall, I think this week looks pretty favorable. So let's not waste any more time. There are 4 teams on the bye week this week. This is the first week with byes. So we got Philly, Detroit, the Chargers, and the Titans on the bye week this week. So let's not waste any more time. These are my week 5 picks of the 2024 NFL season. Let's have another great week. Starting with Thursday night football. We got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers heading on down to Atlanta to play the Falcons. The Bucs are 3-1. They just absolutely manhandled the Eagles on Sunday, 33-16. Another great game for Baker Mayfield, as that was one of those games that I got wrong. You know, if there's one game that I wish I could have back from last week, it was that Philly-Tampa Bay game. I took Philly because I thought that they could basically do what they did to the Bucs last year in the regular season, but wow. Philly's pass defense is awful, but not take anything away from the Bucs. I mean, they just got the job done as they did, and they continue to lead that NFC South as the Atlanta Falcons are 2-2 on the season. That was a 50-50 game I got right there, as Younghoe Koo drilled a 58-yarder to win it for the Falcons over the Saints, but the Falcons, I don't think they played particularly great. I mean, the offense got it together, but if there's one thing that concerns me about Atlanta is that defense they got really needs to get off the field. Their pass defense is real suspect, and going up against a hot hand like Tampa Bay, who's known for spreading the ball around, and Baker Mayfield's resurgence down there, that is a big mismatch in my opinion right there. The Bucs, I feel like if they just get consistent pressure on Atlanta and they just expose that, pass defense they got, the Bucs, have a really good chance at winning. But then you got to look at the Falcons. Third straight home game for the Falcons, so they've been comfortable at home. But Atlanta, they don't really strike me as a really strong home team. You know what I mean? Because, I mean, the Bucs have done very well down in Atlanta over the past couple of years or so. So this is another one of those 50-50 games for me that, took me a little bit to think about. But after really thinking it through, I'm going to lean towards Tampa Bay in this matchup here. Simply because I think they have more advantages than the Falcons in this one. And like I mentioned before, that Tampa's offense against Atlanta's pass defense, I think that's a big mismatch, and I think it's going to be the case for Thursday night. So I'm going to go with the Tampa Bay Bucs to improve to 4-1, beating the Falcons on Thursday night. Okay, everybody, it is the return of the British accent here, as we got our first game across the pond in London as the New York Jets take on the Minnesota Vikings. This one is in London, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. We got the British accent back here for another year. So the New York Jets, they lost pretty embarrassingly to the Denver Broncos. I mean, the Jets completely dominated them in just about every aspect of offense, but they couldn't find the end zone. They kicked 3 field goals against the Denver Broncos, and Denver got consistent pressure on the Jets, and that just goes to show you about Aaron Rodgers. He does not do very well when it goes to playing high-octane defenses that cause a lot of pressure. That's been the story of his career for the most part. I say for the most part because there was an infamous game that a lot of Steeler fans like myself don't talk about. But yeah, the Jets, inexcusable loss for them. They're 2-2 on the season. They failed to capitalize on a golden opportunity because Buffalo got blown out of the water on Sunday Night Football against the Ravens. And then you got to take a look at Minnesota. The Vikings, they just continue to dominate, man. They're 4-0 on the season. Who saw this coming for Minnesota right here? They went to Lambeau. They built up a 28-0 lead against the Green Bay Packers. And the Vikings, they took their foot off the gas pedal a little bit, but they still got the win nonetheless, 31-29 over the hated rivals next door to them. Sam Darnold continues to put up MVP caliber type numbers, and Minnesota just continues to shock everybody. As I mentioned before, Rodgers doesn't do particularly well against high octane, high pressure defenses. And unfortunately for him, while the Vikings have given Aaron Rodgers a lot of trouble throughout his career, the kiss of death right here is that Minnesota comes in currently, as I am recording this video, with the number one ranked defense in the NFL. And it is not hard to see why, as Brian Flores is just doing a magnificent job up there in Minnesota, causing pressure, beating every other team's schemes. And I have no doubt that a team that couldn't find the end zone against a tough Denver defense, they will not be able to do it here. I'm going with the Minnesota Vikings to improve to 5-0 on the season, and I believe it would be their first 5-0 start since that 2016 season when they started 5-0 and promptly missed the playoffs. I mean, I'm not saying that's going to be the case for Minnesota, but if you were to ask me who I trust right now more, it is definitely the Vikings. They have the hotter hand. They are playing like the true underdogs right here, and everyone continues to sleep on them. And I am no longer sleeping on them. I'm wide awake with them right now. I am going with the Minnesota Vikings to beat the New York Jets in London. Cheerio, governor. Now time to go back to my original voice. So the regular slate of Sunday afternoon games. First up, we got the Carolina Panthers at the Chicago Bears. This one is in Chicago. The Panthers got beat at home by the Bengals 34-24. Andy Dalton did okay, but Carolina, it just wasn't enough for the Panthers to overcome what the Bengals threw at them. And then you take a look at the Chicago Bears, 2-2 on the season. They beat a severely undermanned Rams team as Caleb Williams is starting to find a little bit of a groove, and the Bears defense continues to keep him in a lot of games. As I got that being the case again, I'm going to go Chicago to improve to 3-2. How about the NFC North, man? That NFC North is a tough division so far, man. It's looking like how everyone thought the AFC North would look like. But I'm going to go with the Chicago Bears to improve to 3-2. Give me the Bears to just make life miserable for Andy Dalton with that defense. Williams continuing his hot streak. And Carolina, I mean, yeah, they're just not good. I'm going to go with the Bears to beat the Panthers. Next up, we got AFC North rivalry matchup here, a.k.a. can both of these teams please just lose this game? We got the Baltimore Ravens going down to Cincinnati to play the Bengals. The Ravens, well, they stayed at home and they chose violence against the Buffalo Bills, 35-10. They routed the Bills on Sunday night. Derrick Henry with an 87-yard touchdown run on the first offensive play of the night for the Ravens, and that pretty much set the tone as the Ravens, they just never looked back in that one. Complete domination on both ends of the ball by the Ravens, as the Bengals, they're coming off a win as well, so one of these teams is going to extend their winning streak here. I mean, I don't know if you can call it a winning streak for the Bengals because it's just their first win of the year, but Baltimore looks to make it 3-0. The Bengals look to make it 2 in a row. As, the Bengals, they were backed up into a corner last week, and they got that they got a big win against Carolina, and that prevented them from falling further. But yeah, now the Bengals are starting to have some of these tougher games, and Lamar Jackson, if there's one team that Lamar actually plays very well against, it is the Cincinnati Bengals. He has always done well against the Bengals, and the Ravens are coming off a sweep against the Bengals last year. Baltimore's defense is starting to heat up a little bit. And as for the Bengals, they get off to this cold start. They got that win. And like I said last week, I really just don't know if I can fully trust the Bengals to win anymore, because they played Carolina. They're one of, if not the worst team in the NFL. So, I mean, obviously, the Panthers can make a lot of teams look good. But just what I saw from the Ravens, the other night on Sunday Night Football, it really was just maybe just a start for them to get things turned around. So, hate to say it, but I'm going to go with the Ravens to make it 3 straight. I mean, they're heating up at the right time right now, and they're putting that 0-2 start that they had of the season behind them. So, yeah, hate to say it, I'm going to go with the Ravens to win this one to improve to 3-2, and depending on how my game goes, that could probably put them in first place. But yeah, Ravens over the Bengals here. Then we got the excuse me, next up we got the Buffalo Bills going to Houston to play the Texans. This is going to be a really good matchup right here. I was considering making this my game of the week, but I got another matchup in mind for that. But this is no slouch itself. Bills and the Texans going at it in Houston. The Bills, like I just mentioned, 35-10. They got destroyed by the Ravens on Sunday Night Football. While the Texans, they beat Jacksonville, but they had a lot of trouble putting them away. They got a late touchdown to avoid getting upset by them. So, I mean, it's no knock at Houston or anything, but man, they really had a tough time playing the Jaguars. I mean, I know it's a divisional matchup, but I mean, come on, Jacksonville's really not that good. Um, Headline for the Bills coming into this one is a couple of things. Number one, it's Stephon Diggs' first game against his old squad in the Buffalo Bills. A lot of revenge matchups, if you want to call that, early on to start off this season. And secondly, for Buffalo, Von Miller will not play in this game as he got suspended due to personal conduct policy of the NFL. So that might be that might be a loss for Buffalo's defense right there, as the Bills defense, I mean, they just got absolutely obliterated by the Ravens. And now they're playing against a Houston team that's more than capable of dominating the scoreboard as well. CJ Stroud is no joke. He is definitely an offensive player of the year candidate, or, an MVP candidate or whatever. So, yeah, that's not a good look for the Bills right there defensively. However, if there's one thing that I have considering for taking this matchup here, it's that Sean McDermott usually leads the Bills into good bounce back weeks, as we've seen in previous years with the Bills. And the Texans, when they played Minnesota a couple weeks ago, the Texans defense, they just got hammered by the Vikings, who had a really good offense going in that one. And Buffalo, they can absolutely turn things up on offense. They definitely have one of the better offenses in the league. So for that reason, I'm not fully sure if I'm ready to take trust in the Texans defense. So this was a close one, but I am going to choose the Buffalo Bills to win this one here because, like I said, I think Buffalo's offense is better than Houston's defense going in this matchup here. So I think that's the big takeaway for deciding this matchup here. So I am going to go with the Buffalo Bills to wash that ugly, ugly game out of their mouth and beat the Texans. Next, we got the Indianapolis Colts going on down to Jacksonville to play the Jaguars. As we all know the story with the Colts, they handed us our first loss of the season, a 27-24 win over the Steelers last Sunday, a game in which you thought Joe Flacco was in 2012 form in the playoffs against us, as Mike Tomlin did not have a backup plan for a quarterback that he faced twice a year for a decade. So go figure that one out. But regardless, the Colts are 2-2. That was a big, big win for them as they are right back in the race in the AFC. Jonathan Taylor went off in that game against us, and the Colts, they just completely outclassed us in every phase. Jacksonville is 0-4 on the season, and as I just mentioned in my Bills-Texans take, the Jags hung in there real well with the Texans until Houston got that late touchdown to win the game. So, yeah, Jacksonville, in a way, they were able to wash that ugly game against Buffalo out of their mouth from last Monday night. But still, Jacksonville, don't kid yourself. They're still not a good team. They're still off to an abysmal start. And Jacksonville, they're going to need a lot of work to really get things back in the AFC. But there are several key factors for picking this matchup here. Firstly, the Jags, if they're to start racking up some wins, now would be the time. Because after this one, they have a couple of London games coming up, and the Jags have a really good track record of playing in London, as everyone knows. And secondly, you may notice in the line that the Jags are actually favored in this one, despite them being 0-4 and Indy being 2-2. The Jags are actually a 3-point favorite as I'm recording this video. Why is that? The Colts never play well in Jacksonville. The last time the Colts won in Jacksonville was 2013. I'm not making that up. 2013 was the last time the Colts won in Jacksonville. And guess what? That's right. Despite the Jags being favored in this game here, they're going to be my upset for this week. Yeah, I'm a firm believer in trends continuing, and I'm a firm believer that you got to win somewhere in order to break the curse, And that's the epitome of just being a home-dominated series right here. I am going to take the Jacksonville Jaguars to get their first win of the season by beating the Indianapolis Colts in Jacksonville once again. Give me the Jags to knock off the Colts. Then we got the toilet bowl of the week right here. We got the Miami Dolphins going to Foxborough to play the Patriots, as the Dolphins got wrecked at home on Monday night by the Tennessee Titans, 31-12. A game in which we saw Mason Rudolph play in that game for the Titans as he led the Titans to a win. As the Dolphins, say what you want about Tua Tagovailoa. I personally think he's very overrated. But let's face facts, guys. The Dolphins are completely useless without Tua. I mean, that offense is just anemic, despite having Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill at their disposal. Then you look at the Patriots. They got destroyed in San Francisco by the 49ers, 30-13. Their offense continues to suck. They continue to put Jacoby Brissett out there. And I'm telling you right now, Gerard Mayo, that guy don't know what he's doing as head coach. I mean, you took Drake May with your first round of the draft, and you're not putting him out there. Oh, well, it's because they don't want him to get hurt behind a busted offensive line, Mac. What do you want the Pats to do? Well, guys, what are you waiting for? For New England to have 5 all-pros at their respective position on that O-line? Yeah, if you do that, you're going to be waiting for a very long time for that. Just put Drake May out there, man. What the hell did you draft him for if you're not going to put him out there? He's supposed to be a difference maker if you took him that early. But, yeah, the Patriots, not that I'm complaining about it personally. I love it. But, Yeah, New England is just completely inept right now, and this is just a matchup of somebody has to win. That's why it's my toilet bowl. So I am actually going to go with the Patriots to win this one simply because at least New England has been somewhat competitive in their games this year. I mean, don't get me wrong, they've looked awful. No one can deny that, but at least they've been kind of competitive. The Dolphins have never led for a single second this season, despite them having a win. They trailed the entire game in week one against Jacksonville, and the only time they led was at the final second when they won the game. But Miami has not held a lead all season. Maybe they'll hold a lead this time, but I'm going to go with New England to win this one simply because I have to pick somebody, and it's just easily the worst matchup of the week. So give me the Pats to win this one. Then we got the Cleveland Browns going to D.C. to play the Redskins as the Browns lost in Vegas as Deshaun Weinstein once again looked miserable. He has not been playing well. That contract is just going to hang all over the Browns' heads as they dropped it to the Raiders in Vegas. That was my upset last week. I took the Raiders to beat the Browns. As Cleveland is 1-3, tied with the Bengals for last in the AFC North. But how about Washington, man? Jaden Daniels is something to believe in. As he went 26 of 30 for a touchdown. And over the last 2 weeks, he has completed 82% of his passes. This kid is something special. Washington absolutely just buried Arizona 42-14. A dominant win for Washington. They're 3-1 and they're leading the NFC East. Now, only time will tell if it's just Washington taking advantage of a weak division or if they're for real. Me, I buy Washington right now. That defense still needs a little bit of patch-up work, but that was the one time this season where they played as advertised on defense. They have a lot of upside to them, and Washington is going in a great direction. They got a great run game to complement with that as well. The Browns defense has just been beat up and bruised all season to start off this season, and now they're going up against a hot hand in Washington. Yeah, I am going to take Washington, and I am going to lock them up this week. So, yeah, I think that Jaden Daniels is just going to continue his hot streak right now. I think the Browns are just going to have no answer for the run game. And I honestly don't see how the Browns get anything going offensively. That offense, very boomer bust. You know, they're trying to get Amari Cooper involved more, but they can only do so much with that. If it goes to a shootout, I don't trust Cleveland at all. I'm going to go with Washington to improve to 4-1, win their fourth consecutive game. Give me Washington all over Cleveland. Again, my lock of the week. All right, kicking off the later slate of Sunday afternoon games, we got the Las Vegas Raiders heading on out to Denver to play the Broncos as the Raiders are going through some drama right now. There's a lot of rumors right now about Davante Adams being traded as Antonio Pierce. He's shown that he low-key wants Davante Adams out as he's liked social media posts of trade rumors of Davante Adams that involve him. Adams has said that Pierce has not reached out to him and that he is currently requesting a trade. So, again, I'm not going to sit down here and give a full synopsis of it, but that's basically what's going on. The Raiders are going through some drama right now, and that can be a cause for distraction. Meanwhile, the Denver Broncos are coming off a big win over the Jets, 10-9, as the Broncos, let's not beat around the bush. Their offense, again, so anemic. I don't want to be too hard on Bo Nix, but the guy didn't get positive passing yards until the second half. You know, Again, I don't want to be too hard on him because he's just a rookie, but still, that's pretty pathetic. But Denver's defense is playing as advertised. If there's one thing to not sleep on with the Broncos, it's their defense. That defense is stingy. It can keep you off the board. It'll limit you. And, the Broncos, they're a tricky team, man, because they've won back-to-back games. They beat the Jets and the Bucs on the road. And now they're heading back home to play the Raiders. And we all know Vegas has just completely owned the Broncos. The Raiders are 8-0 against the Broncos this decade. I think they've won like 10 in a row against them as well, which is currently the longest active winning streak that a team has against another team in the NFL currently. It's hard to pick, but I'm going to go with momentum and I'm going to go with the history right here. Until the Raiders get that win streak snapped, I'm going to take them to beat Denver every single time. Like I said, the drama that the Raiders have, that can be a cause for distraction, but I think the Raiders will overcome it, and I think they'll win a pretty low-scoring game. Like I keep saying, I'm not a big over-under type of guy, but for this matchup, I would definitely take the under. I'm going to take the Raiders to win this one over the Broncos once again. Then we got the Arizona Cardinals going on out to San Francisco to play the 49ers, as the Cardinals just got absolutely whopped at home by Washington 42-14. Arizona just did not have a good game altogether. I mean, they just got sliced and diced by Jaden Daniels all day, and they just had no response whatsoever. Meanwhile, for San Francisco, they had a laundry list of injuries, but that was no trouble for them. 30-13 over New England. Now, granted, it was New England. The Patriots are a real bad team, but Brock Purdy looked okay, and they're getting Deebo Samuel and George Kittle back. But the biggest headline for the 49ers in this one is regarding CMC. The tendonitis in his right leg has transferred over to his left. So there's no timetable right now currently for CMC. But I'll tell you, Jordan Mason has been a great story for the 49ers. He's ran the ball very effectively so far, and he's just been a perfect substitute for CMC. So for that reason, I'm going to go with the 49ers to keep it rolling. I'm going to get them to get their second straight win and beat the Cardinals here. This will be my spread. 49ers are favored by 7.5. I think they can cover that easily with the way that Arizona's played over the past couple weeks. So, yeah, the Cardinals, they've been a disappointment since that onslaught that they had against the Rams a few weeks back. They have only scored 27 points on offense. And I think going up against a 49er team that is looking to get back on track, that spells doom for them. I'm going to go San Francisco to double up the Cardinals. 28-14 is my score prediction for this one. Like I said, my spread of the week, give me the Niners. Then we got the Green Bay Packers flying on out to LA to play the Rams, as the Packers lost at home 31-29 to Minnesota, as I mentioned earlier. The Vikings built up a 28-0 lead on Green Bay, and the Packers made a ferocious comeback, but it just fell short. Jordan Love threw 3 interceptions in his first game back, as last week I mentioned that they should maybe start Malik Willis because they don't know the full extent of Jordan Love. And well, I'm not going to say that cost Green Bay the game because, they made it a comeback, but still 3 interceptions for Jordan Love. But I don't think that's going to continue much longer. Obviously, you expect Jordan Love to find his rhythm. You expect him to find his groove. And I think this is a great opportunity this week, as the Rams, they're still beaten. They're still battered. They're still very undermanned. And the Rams lost it to the Chicago Bears last Sunday, where they just couldn't get anything going offensively, and the defense did what they could, but it was just, too much for them to handle when you're beat up like that. I think if the Rams have any chance at winning this game, Again, they got to get Kyron Williams going in here because I think that might be able to wear down Green Bay's defense. But still, I mean, the Packers have played exceptionally well on defense to start off the season. And I think with their defense going up against Stafford, who is another one of those quarterbacks that struggles against high octane defenses, I think that's going to be the difference right here. So, yeah, I'm going to go Green Bay to win this one to, you know, get their minds off that loss to Minnesota because, like I said, at least Green Bay was able to make it a game after being down 28 to nothing. The Rams, they're going to be hard for me to pick this year. It's funny. It's week 5 and I still haven't picked the Rams yet. And, like I said a couple weeks ago, my goal for Pick'em is to pick every team to win at least once. The Rams at least have a legitimate excuse for me for not picking them, but it's going to be nearly impossible for me to pick Carolina. But I'm going to go Green Bay to beat the Rams and win and just get that bad loss to Minnesota off their minds. So give me Green Bay here. Then we got the New York Giants flying on out to Seattle to play the Seahawks. As the Giants lost last Thursday to the Cowboys 20-15. The Giants hung in there. They played tough defensively, but they couldn't score a touchdown. They kicked 5 field goals against the Cowboys. And, it sucks for the Giants because Malik Neighbors got injured in that game, and he's probably going to miss some time. That's just a real bad blow to the Giants right there. That Malik Neighbors kid, he's something special. I think he's a really good talent right there. And, for him to get injured like that, it just sucks. So the Giants, it's just going to be rough for them to go. They can't run the ball very well. Their defense can't stop the run very well. And they just really have no rhythm on offense, and that's real bad for them. It's a terrible mismatch because going up against the Seahawks, a team that actually runs the ball very effectively, as they saw in that Monday night game, despite losing, Kenneth Walker had a really good game. And like I said, that's just a real bad sign for the Giants, who can't stop the run, and going up against a run-heavy team in Seattle. Seahawks lost to the Lions 42-29 on Monday night, but the Seahawks, they still gave Detroit they gave Detroit a good challenge. Just a couple of things that didn't go Seattle's way. Geno Smith put up some big numbers again. Yeah, it's obvious Seattle can score a lot of points and they can get things going when they really click on offense. And the defense can only do so much for the Giants. As for Seattle's defense, it's very up and down. That's just what I keep saying about Seattle's defense. It's very up and down. It looks great one week, it sucks the next week. But I really don't think Seattle's going to have any trouble here. I'm going to go with the Seahawks to rebound from that tough loss to Detroit. And I got them just taking out all their anger and their frustrations on the Giants. I'm going to go Seattle to win this one pretty convincingly over the Giants. Next, we got my matchup. Sunday Night Football. Check your local listings. And it's not only my game, but it's also my personal rivalry of the week. An old school Super Bowl rivalry here. Two of the most successful franchises in the NFL. The Dallas Cowboys and the Pittsburgh Steelers going at it at Heinz Field this Sunday evening. So, I'm good again. Going to try to save the majority of it for my preview. And I got a little something for Cowboys fans as well. But the Cowboys are 2-2. They beat the Giants 20-15, as I just mentioned. But Dallas didn't really dominate on offense. They did pretty much just the bare minimum to win that game. And Dallas has been very disappointing on defense so far. I mean, they allowed a lot of points at home so far. But obviously, this isn't a road game for them. But still, I'd be remiss if I sat down here and was like, you know what? Not really impressed with Dallas's defense so far. I'm just not. Especially their run defense. They are towards the bottom tier with rush defense, and that's been one of their biggest advantages on defense over the past couple of seasons. So automatically, I'm thinking right off the bat for the Steelers is that if there's a game for Najee Harris to really burst out on the scene and for this O-line to really come out, because the O-line just suffered a big blow with James Daniels being out for the whole season now with an Achilles tear. If there's any game for the Steelers to break out on offense on the ground, this is the week to do it. I'm talking about, Arthur Smith coming up with every bit of knowledge that he has with the ground game, because that's how his offense rolls around, opening up holes on the O-line, attacking on the ground, protecting the quarterback. I'm talking about getting Najee Harris having a big game. I'm talking about using RPO plays with Justin Fields. That's what I'm talking about for this game here. Attack the weakness of your enemy. And Dallas's weakness right now is their rush defense. Okay? The Steelers we lost our first game of the season last week, 27-24. Justin Fields was the only reason this team was even in the game. Because with Mike Tomlin's cluelessness, the defense having an off day, and costly mistakes, the Steelers still only lost by 3 because Justin Fields balled out. Justin Fields did what he could to win this game. 24 points should be enough to win. But just so many factors that played in the hand with the Steelers cost them a win. And they can't afford to do that now, because now the Ravens are just a game back of us. And, it's just going to be tough if we drop a second straight game. So, yeah, we really need a get it right game. And I think this is the week that we can do it. I am going to go with the Steelers to beat the Cowboys. Why? Because I trust us defensively more than Dallas at this point. How you beat Dak Prescott? You load up the box, you attack the edges, and you get pressure on him. Okay? You have to make Dak make mistakes. This defense is capable of causing turnovers. And Ezekiel Elliott, and if you remember, Zeke and Dak, the last time they came here in their rookie year, we had no run defense. We had no pressure. We couldn't sack. It's 8 years later. The defense is completely different now. We can cause turnovers. We can stop the run. And if there's a get it right game for the defense here, this is definitely the week to do it. Okay? Zeke is definitely not what he used to be. Dak is easily beatable. So, just another thing, it's that the one thing I'll give Tomlin credit for, and this is the only thing I'll give him credit for, is that usually, and I emphasize the crap out of that word, usually, has a good game plan for home primetime games. So, with those factors at hand, I think us having a more defined defense, and I think us having a huge advantage over Dallas's defense, I'm going to go with my guys to win this game to improve to 4-1. And if you know me, I usually tend to lean towards the team that played Thursday. I'm not picking either team that played Thursday this week. This is the exception week. But I'm going to go with the Steelers to improve to 4-1, despite Dallas having having 3 extra days of rest. I think we can win in the trenches here. More in my preview, but I'm going to take my guys to win it to go to 4-1. Wrapping up week 5, this is my game of the week. We got the New Orleans Saints going to Kansas City to play the Chiefs. As the Saints are 2-2, they're coming off a rough loss to the Falcons. Game-winning field goal by Atlanta in the final seconds. As the Saints, I would not count them out just yet. The Saints definitely have that capability of just exploding on offense, as we saw in the first 2 weeks of the season. It's simmered down a little bit, but still, the Saints, they are a pretty good offensive team to start off this season. Then you take a look at Kansas City. The Chiefs, yeah, they're 4-0. They're finding ways to win. But to be 100% honest with you, I am not impressed with Kansas City so far. Their defense has been carrying them, and they've been getting off to slow starts. And, they've just solely been relying on Mahomes to win them the game. You know, they can't get away with that for much longer. I'm just saying that right now. They cannot get away with that for much longer. And a big concerning factor for Kansas City here is that Rashee Rice was initially to have feared to have torn his ACL, but now they ruled it to it not being a season-ending injury, and his status is currently unknown. So we don't know if Rashee Rice is going to return for this season or not. Regardless, though, that's a big loss for Kansas City on offense right there. And they're putting a lot of pressure on Xavier Worthy right there. I think Xavier Worthy is more than capable of being a number one receiver, but still, when you're putting the pressure on a rookie wide receiver like that, and you don't really have a clear number two option other than Travis Kelce, because Travis Kelce's gotten off to a slow start, I think that builds advantages for the New Orleans Saints. So I think it's going to be a really good game for both teams coming on here, because I think the Saints really need to get that run game going here. We know they can do it with Alvin Kamara. We know they can do it with the receivers they have. They're going to test Kansas City's defense all night. So, yeah, this one took me a lot of time to think about, but I'm going to take a really big gamble here and actually say the Saints go into Kansas City and hand the Chiefs their first loss of the season. With the way that the Chiefs have been playing, I think it's just going to catch up to them sooner or later. And I think the Saints are one of those teams that can actually do that against Kansas City. So, yeah, I'm taking a big risk here. I'm taking a big gamble here. I'm going to go with the New Orleans Saints to win this one and hand the Chiefs their first loss of the season. And that will do it. Those are my Week 5 picks of the 2024 season. Let's have another good week. As I am Mac, checking on out for the day. Have a good one, everybody.